Hi everyone, this is Atanas Yonkov, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to create and set up a WordPress website. You'll be surprised to see how easy it is to create and set up a website these days. In fact, you don't need any technical knowledge to do that. The only thing that you need to do is to watch this tutorial to the end of it. So let's start. First, let's summarize what we're gonna do today. I prepared these points that we need to cover. And don't worry if you don't understand some of these things yet. In the process, you understand everything. First of all, we need to plan our website, which basically means we need to decide what our website will be about. Will it be a travel blog or a blog about hiking? Do you want to present your business there? Or maybe you want to sell something? After you figure out these things, you need to move on to the next part, which is registering a unique domain name. Domain name is what appears on the top of the address bar in the browser. For example, this nasiothemes.com, it's a domain name. And you need a domain name to be able to run and people can find you in the internet. It needs to be unique. After that, you need a hosting provider which will host your files and your website. Finally, you need to map the domain to the website. And of course, you need a software that makes all the magic happen. The software is WordPress. These things are required in order to have a website, and you can't omit any of these steps. For registering a domain name, companies would usually ask you for around $500. But since we are going to do that ourselves, you can register a domain name for much cheaper. In fact, typical .com domain or .net domain costs around $10–15 per year. And since we're gonna do everything by ourselves, planning the website will also be completely free, and hosting provider costs between $30 and $50 depending on the different plans per year. And I'm going to recommend you a hosting provider called Host Armada, which will give us a discount, and furthermore the domain name will be free if you go with that option. Luckily, this hosting provider will also set up hosting and domain pretty much automatically for us, and it also be free. WordPress is a free software. This is free in all cases, and you see how easy it is to manage your content with it. After that, we need to install a theme which will take care of your look and feel of the website. There are free and premium themes, but we can go with the basic one, which will be free. After that, we need to customize the website, of course, to match and align our goal, which we define in step 1. Since we're going to do that ourselves, it will be free. Moreover, we need to install some programs, so think about WordPress as Windows which doesn't have any programs on it, and To have some additional functionalities like contact form or backup, we'll need to have some extensions or plugins installed, and this will also be free. We're going to use free extensions. Of course, there are also premium ones if you have more budget, but for the sake of this experiment, we'll go with the cheapest option to make it most accessible to everyone. And the content we're gonna add ourselves, it's also be free. So in total, $30 for a whole year. I think it's a great cost for, it's very cheap for what we're gonna do by the end of this tutorial, and I really hope you'll be proud with the end result. Now let's move on to registering the domain name. And since we're gonna use my partner, Host Armada, points from 2 to 4 will happen automatically once we register an account there. So first we click on get started, and for the sake of this experiment we'll choose the cheapest option. We click on get started and we select the first plan, which is $250 per month and approximately $35 for the whole year. Now we'll get prompted to pick a domain name. And let's make it learn how to make a website.com. We need to check the domain availability in this case. Unfortunately, the domain name that we tried, learn how to make a website.com, is already registered. Then we'll try something different, learn how to make an awesome website. And let's make it just site to be a little bit shorter. Now we got lucky this time, and we click on continue, and it's completely free of charge. Usually the domain name costs between $10 and $15, but Host Armada give us for free. And now we need to pick the if we want monthly or annual plan, and even we have option for 3 years, only $250 per month, which I think it's great. But for the sake of this tutorial, let's go with the one pay for every 12 months, which is $3 per month. And here we're gonna choose the data center. So if you're wondering what that is, this is important if you think that the majority of your visitors will be located, let's say, in Asia, then you pick some of the data centers in Asia. If you think they will be from Europe, then go with the first option. In this case, I'll go with Frankfurt. And these are additional extras which you can install. For example, SEO is extremely important. You need to have SEO, but this is like an advanced SSL, which if you just want to have a standard blog or portfolio website, you don't need it for now. So we go to preview order, and here we have option to select extra privacy protection, which will hide our data in the WHOIS database. This is a nice feature because hiding your email and phone number will mean less spam for you. But if you don't really care about it, or you want to save some more bucks, you can disable it. And for the sake of this experiment, we'll disable it and click continue. And finally, we see that our order includes hosting and domain name, and the final price is just $35.85, which I think is really good offer. And once we finish, we'll go to the checkout, enter our payment data, and just follow the instructions which you receive by email, which will basically create automatically hosting account which is linked to your domain name. What's important to do in this case, and if you try after you do that to visit your website, you see that you have trouble finding that site. This happens because the DNS settings need some time to update. So after you do this registration, wait for at least half an hour, then go back and check it again. So see you in 30 minutes. So after you've waited for about half an hour, you can now map this domain name to the hosting. Perhaps you even don't need to do this and it will happen automatically, but since I have this domain from another provider, I will need to add the domain name to it. So how do I do that? We go to the control panel of the hosting account, click on domains, and click on create a new domain. The domain name which I added is makeanawesomewebsite.buzz. So, and you have to uncheck this box so it has its own directory and click submit. Now if we are lucky, this will already work, but in some cases you need to give it more time. In some cases DNS propagation can take even up to 48 hours. In most cases though, around half an hour is enough so the changes propagate and the website is ready. So let's see if we are lucky. I'll paste the URL and we see that it works, but this is obviously not what we want to have. This is an example page from our hosting provider, but the website works and that's great. And if you want to see the folder of our website, we click here on control panel and we go to file manager, and finally we go to make awesome website, and we'll see that the folder is pretty much empty except for this HTML, which is what we see here. This means we are currently at the step 5, install WordPress. How do we install WordPress and why do we need WordPress? Because we need a way to edit this content here, but now there is no way to do that. This is a static HTML which we see here, but there is no way to edit it unless we understand very well how HTML code works. And if I open this file, I'll see that this is a lot of code here. And of course this is not what we're gonna do now and what we want. We want here WordPress and we want to edit this content without touching any code. So how do we do that? And luckily With Host Armada it's really easy because I'm gonna use now a tool called Softaculous, and for this we need to go to the control panel again and click WordPress Manager by Softaculous. And here we can click on install, and we find the website. It's this one that we want to install WordPress on, and it's really easy. We just give the name, the site title. Since we're gonna work on a fitness gym website, for the sake of this experiment, let's call it Fitness Master Club. For site description, we can leave it empty for now, or we can add something, an awesome website. For admin, I really recommend you to use something more secure, and for the sake of this experiment we'll just use this admin and pass, but I'll change this of course as soon as possible, and also you should do that too, because this is really not secure and any hacker could potentially go into the admin bar of your site and be able of course to edit content and do some other bad stuff. So you need really secure password, and also change the usernames not to be admin but something more like or user, but yeah, just take care of privacy please. And finally it looks good, so we just click here install, and even though it said that it will take 3-4 minutes, with Host Armada it's really fast. It only took a few seconds. So now if we click on our website and we see that we have WordPress installed with the newest theme 2024, and now the beauty of this is we can actually edit the content potentially by going to wp/admin and enter admin and the password and click on remember me. And the hosting provider also installs some additional tools, and this Immunify is obviously a plugin, so they ask us to use some stronger password. So I'll change my password and see you in a while. Alright, so to avoid the issue which I had, just make sure you use the correct email address in the Softaculous setup and also stronger password. Anyway, we are inside the content management system. And that's great because right now, if you go back to our website by hovering over the top left icon and click visit site, we'll see this tiny black bar on the top of our website. This means we now have the admin capabilities and we can edit the content of the website, while the users who gonna see this website, and also if we log out, we'll see they will not see this black top bar, and of course they will not be able to log in. Awesome. So we already completed points from 1 to 5. Now what we're gonna do next is install a WordPress theme. And to get the most out of this tutorial, I recommend you to install Prespa theme. It's a theme which I created, and it's extremely versatile and lightweight at the same time. It provides you with all the necessary layouts to create any type of website, from a blog to something more unique like a digital agency website or even an online shop. You can have a look at all the demos. And here you can read more about this theme. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna install it and pick a demo which we'll later use. But how do we do that? Well, we need to go again on our website, and this is the old page which didn't have WordPress installed. But if I refresh it, we'll see the current state of our website. And we go here to themes, add new theme, and in the search bar we type Prespa. Then we click on install, and this will give us so many opportunities to make our website unique and the way we want it without touching any code. After we make sure that Prespa is the active theme in our website, we click here and we click on the customize button. Prespa comes with starter content, which looks really great, and all we need to do to have this layout is just click here publish. And this is what actually 90% of the websites need. So if we have a look at my agency website, what we've got here is we've got logo on the left, site title on the left, we've got menu on the right, we have some nice header with an image, also we have a call to action, then we have features or products, then we have client reviews, and finally we have a footer with some social links and more links. So that's pretty much repeats over and over for every website. We also have a menu with about, list of articles, we also have a contact page, and we have language switcher. And all of this we can have if we use Prespa theme. And this is what we're doing now. And as we see, we have a lot of content already for us completely for free by just clicking in the theme customizer. Now we click on publish here to store these changes. We see also we have a menu with about page, which is really great and does a lot of job for us already. But of course we want to make a fitness master club, and while this looks good, it's obviously not a website for fitness. And that's what we're going to do just now. So we're going to actually change these images in such a way that it looks more in line with what we want to do now. Okay, great. So points 1-6 accomplished. Now let's customize our website. We already have pages added, so we only need to change the content. And here is a mistake that 90% of the people make when they create their own website. They focus on some tiny little details like changing text and making the header perfect instead of adding some nice looking general content. And then after we have the pages, after we have this content, even though it's not in line, to start adding the right content. And here, this is the step where 90% of the people just fail. So we already have a website, even though, of course, it doesn't have the correct content yet. So now, let's continue and add the content. And what I've already prepared for you are some nice images, and I will add them as a link in the description of this video. So let's start. Click on edit page here, and don't worry, you'll see how easy it is. Let's say welcome to the block editor, and this you can skip for now and see it pretty much look the same, but we have the opportunity to change everything. It's extremely easy. For example, let's change this text here. Welcome to our master gym club. And of course, this description also should be changed. And don't focus on this one too much. It's just some content that later at any time you can change. For now, just let's add some content which is of course more in line. But you can change it very easily, as you see. So strength, vigor, and discipline in one place. Join our club to make the difference. And of course, these buttons should also be a bit changed. So for example, we can have here join our club and book an empty slot, for example. Or I don't know, you can put whatever you want pretty much. Okay, now this image is really nice, but it's not really in line with what we want to do, so I'll just remove it. And what I'm going to do now, I'll put background here, and it's extremely easy actually. I think you can just, these are the images which I have prepared for you, and be careful to use images which are free to use. So in this case I used Unsplash, Pixabay, which are really nice websites, and all of the content is free there. So you can search for royalty free images and you can use them on your website absolutely for free. So let's try just to actually drag and drop this and see if it works. And yeah, it's working pretty well. But of course this is too bright, so first of all you need to understand how this, although you don't have to change too much, you just need to change the images, but you need to understand how it works. So these in WordPress are called blocks, and the three dots here give a nice overview of all the blocks which are used. I have already prepared all the blocks for you, so you shouldn't worry about this too much. But what this means is you can actually change and remove some of these blocks, and the easiest way to do it is if you click here on the three dots and you have some really nice overview of everything on the website. We see that this is a cover block, and if you want, for example, to inspect this one, you need to click here and the content here changes. So now let's go back here and try to make this overlay more dark, and the text here, of course, it should be more light. How do we do that? So we click here on styles, wow on the block tab, overlay, and we will pick a darker overlay. Perhaps make it a little bit lighter. You can adjust the opacity. For me, this is fine. And of course, the text, it should become white in this case. Now that's much better now, isn't it? Now, probably we don't need really this section because it's you can put some icons here, of course, but for a fitness website, probably that's not really gonna work. So we remove it by simply clicking here and click delete. However, this section here, let me close these tabs so you can see better. This section is nice because it can be something like how it works section, and you can pretty much explain the steps that are required for your business or the different types of activities that you offer. And we can write something like different let's say find the right program for you. And of course these images need to be changed, and I've prepared some nice images, and we're gonna use these from training exercise from Pixabay. And the easiest way is we just add these images by replacing them. You see, it's very easy. We just need to click on upload and go here and just add the image that we want. For example, I think this one is nice. And to see how easy it is to actually customize this and make it look more like a fitness gym or sport co-op website rather than a digital agency one. Let's add this one, and let's add the training here. Now that looks much more like a fitness club, right? And these are the different programs, and then we can say something like services, or we can do something more inspiring, like the right way to get you back on track. And here we can list basically what we have in store for our clients. And of course, don't focus too much about this. You change it in the go, don't worry. Just make it something really quick with the images which I prepared for you. And let's see, for example, here services, and we can have, let's say, this fitness exercising, and it can be something like general, I don't know, fitness. Let's replace this one to say we want, for example, we can have different exercises involved, and we can add also perhaps you have something more easygoing. Not everything requires heavy lifting. So let's put this image then. Maybe some aerobics, or I don't know, just something more like an extracurriculum hours or something. All right, and we see that here the image is a bit different aspect ratio, but that's not a big problem. We can control this with the height option. For example, we can set a limit to probably something less, or maybe we just use medium resolution to display it. But don't worry too much about this for now. Just make sure you pick images with similar width to height proportion, which obviously I didn't do in this case. But now this really looks much better, and when you look at it from another perspective, this looks like more spotlight. So I kind of like it this way. We have pricing plans, and what if we don't really like these things? We want to add some extra block of content, and in WordPress this is really easy to do that, and I'm going to show you how. But let's first change this also, because probably we don't need these sections. We'll remove them, and I'll show you how you can re-add them later. It's really easy. We can have testimonials. Let's keep it for now. Let's keep plans. Also, let's keep statistics. And let's change this also photo real quick. Perhaps we want to have a block, but not exactly this image. So we change it pretty much in the same way how we change the others. So let's make it more in line with our new shiny fitness gym block. Join our latest open doors event, for example. Free. Join us at our latest open doors free event, or I don't know, you can use whatever you want. And latest news, probably not really blog in this case. Awesome, but don't forget to update, because everything can happen. You can go offline, so please update this page. And let's see what we've just created. Awesome. So now this looks much more like a gym club, and of course it needs some extra polishing. Perhaps some of these sections should be removed, but we're getting much closer to what we want. Don't worry too much about the content, because this really the last thing, and a lot of people make this mistake. They focus too much on, for example, changing the text here, and they never add the content here. And instead, see, we already have made quite good progress. So let me also show you how to add some more custom content, which doesn't come by default from the customizer of this theme. So let's go back here again, click on edit page, and there is something very nice in WordPress which is called patterns. Also, don't worry about this. It's sometimes when switching version of WordPress it can happen, but it's nothing to worry too much. In fact, we don't really need this section, so let's remove it altogether. And we go to click here, and then we go to patterns, and we choose our theme patterns. And we'll see that we also have some other nice patterns, not just the ones which we saw. And for example, I really like this one, and you can repeat pretty much the process here. You can put it up if you click here. And we can say like something like events. I don't know, it can be also, of course, services or features, but we can do something like this in our case. And let me also show you this, so you can actually put okay, we can add this, for example, and instead of this we can add one more photo. Yeah, that looks much better. And of course this shouldn't be UI UX, but as I said, don't worry too much about this. Okay, perhaps let's remove also these sections, keep it more simple. And now you can see you can add as many content blocks as you want, change some images, and it already starts looking really good. Okay, one more thing that you can do, although it's not really obligatory, but it's really nice to have. So add a logo here, and I will show you real quick how you can actually do it. I'm gonna go to a website called logomaker.com and click on Start My Design. Create a new design, and we search for fitness. Let's see what we have here. And for example, I like this one. So let's just pick. Of course, if you need something more custom, let's say even more professional, then I would recommend hiring a designer for that. But for the sake of this experiment, we try to do this with minimum costs, and you can create a logo here actually for free. And I'm also not a designer, so don't worry too much about what I'm going to show you. Just have something really basic. We can move this, align it a little bit, and make it a bit bigger. And then fitness, master quap. Perhaps we want to make it on 2 lines, I don't know. And cover should be black. Okay, we can put also something here, let's say stars. For example, this one. And when we're happy with what we did, just don't waste too much time on this. If you find yourself like spending more than 15-20 minutes on this, just move on to something else. So otherwise you risk getting stuck with the whole process. So when we're happy with the final result, and just make sure you don't spend too much time on it, we can click on Save Logo and download low resolution PNG file. Then I'm just gonna type my email address and I'll get this by email. Please note that this logo that we create is just for personal use and also for non-commercial use. And if you need something more custom, you should hire a designer to do that for you. Alright, so now that I've downloaded the logo, I also created 2 versions of it, one with the text and one without, just to see what will look better. We click on Customize here, the same way as we loaded the demo content of Prespa theme. We go to Site Identity and we click on Select Logo. Then we upload the file in very similar way how I showed you before. And in just case, I'll just upload this. And we can skip cropping for now. And we have our logo here. Since we already have the text, probably we don't need it in the logo. So I think that looks really nice. We also have about page, and we can continue with the same procedure, changing some images and slowly getting our website into the final stage. Alright, so we've managed to come to step 8. Install plugins. As I mentioned before, plugins are programs that do some additional stuff, such as contact forms, for example, or site backup. So how do we add plugins? And we actually have contact button, but if we have a closer look, we'll see that we don't actually have a contact page, as this doesn't lead to anything. So I'm going to add a contact page now and add a contact form to the website. For this, I'll create a new page, and you can hover here, new page. I'll call it contact and I will publish it. That's great, but this contact page doesn't have any content. And also it's not linked to here. How do we link that? Well, that's super easy. With Prespo theme, you just click on copy this link, then click on customize button, header options, site header, button text, contact button link. We just add this URL. Click on publish. And if we're on home page, click on contact. Now we are redirected to our contact page. And that's amazing. But how do we add a contact form? Well, this is where a plugin will come really handy. And we're going to install a plugin by going to plugins, add new plugin, and we're going to look for a plugin called Contact Form 7. As you see, this plugin have more than 5 million active installation, and as it's not the most user-friendly one, it's extremely customizable and all the features are for free, so it's not behind the paywall, unlike most other contact form plugins, which I really like about it. So it's extremely customizable, even though maybe not the most user-friendly one. So let's install it. And you see, actually it's pretty simple to use it, even though it goes like not being very straightforward. In fact, it is. And I'll just show you how you can very easily, after we installed it, we go back to the contact page, click on edit, and here we see that we have this empty page, so we don't have any content, unlike the home page. But don't panic about this, it works in the same way. We can add patterns if we want, so just we click here on the plus patterns, and with the Prespa patterns we'll see the familiar patterns which we looked before, and you can all call them here. Or there are some patterns which are coming from the WordPress itself. For example, we have some call to actions. Also from the community, if you click on all patterns, you'll see patterns and everything you can add. And gallery, for example, everything you add just with a simple click. It's so easy. It's so easy to create a website these days, thanks to the tremendous improvement in WordPress, and it's at the same time extremely capable and user-friendly. But for now, let's focus on creating the contact form. Now, instead of patterns, of course, you can check this view to get better overview, but instead of using patterns, we will use a block, which is what a pattern consists of, or this is pretty much the smallest element of the page is a block. You can think about it this way. So you have the blocks, which are the building blocks of the pattern, and then we have a list of patterns and we have a whole page. And now we're gonna add a block which is called contact form, and it comes from this plugin. Once we install and activate it, and we need to select the contact form, which is by default, and it does pretty good job already. and we just click on update. And now we have a basic contact form on our website. To configure it, you need to go to dashboard, contact forms, and you can configure it from here. But as you see, the basic contact form have pretty much enough. And I'll also show you real quick how you can easily add a Google Maps form here. So we just go to maps.google.com, and we can just select some very random address. For example, let's pick the Grand Place, and what we have to do is just click on share, embed a map, and copy this HTML here. Finally, we go to the contact page, click on edit, and below this map we will add another block which is called HTML. And don't worry if you will not be coding, you're just copy pasting this code and that's it. You forget about it. Update, view page, and you have a nice Google map showing your business physical address. Finally, I want to show you how to make a backup to the website, and of course backups are very important, and some digital agency charge a lot of money for these backups, but luckily you can do that also for free with the help of a plugin. What we're gonna do now is we go to dashboard, plugins, add new plugin, and we'll search for a plugin called Duplicator. Duplicator have free and premium version which have more features, but for a basic website the free version will do a good job. As you can see, it's also very popular. It has more than 1 million active installations. You can go on, install it, then activate it, and then you can click on create your first package to back up your website. This is the name of the backup. It can be anything, but it's good to have the date, of course. And this says where it will be saved, but you can also download it locally. After that, we click next, and it will scan our site and say if everything looks good, and we click on build. It will take some time until Duplicator creates the build, and it will be stored on your web server, as well as you can download it locally. And see how simple it is to have a backup, and you can also download the files locally if you decide. But even if you don't download them, if you go to packages, you are all set here, as both files are on the server. So congratulations! If you've made it this far, You already know how to create and set up a basic WordPress website. You know how to add content, change images, and even do slightly more complex things like adding contact form, adding a Google Map form. So I hope this tutorial was useful for you. I wish you good luck. Bye.